are all the setups finally paid off? Now, by setup, I mean if you walk into the room and there are crossed swords hanging over the fireplace and the light gleams on the razor edge of them, something very important has got to get cut. Somebody's head off, or ropes that hang the chandeliers or whatever. If you see a gun, somebody's got to get shot with it sometime or another. And it's very easy to add these bits in as drama when you're describing something in the beginning and then forget all about them. So if there's a relationship that's a little edgy, a little interesting, have you sorted that out? So you've tied it up, either it died the death or it went on to something else. All the setups must be paid off. Look, reading through your work, is some of it overwritten? Have you said things 2 or 3 times? If you said it well, once is enough. And it's very easy to be overwritten. I remember writing it was a small story because it was for teenagers who were suffering from dyslexia. And I had 12,000 words, not that I counted them, but the machine always does that for you. And I suddenly realised when I reread the contract that it had to be 9,000. And I thought, I can't take out 1/4 of the whole thing. It'll be a ruin. But I went through it and I took out everything that I realised was really unnecessary. Comments that were not necessary because you could see for yourself that this or that had happened, or a description of something that wasn't really important. We could have concluded that for ourselves. Extra words here and there that didn't matter. And when I went through the count again, I found it was 9,000, and the story was stronger rather than weaker. There are lots of things we do tend to put in, thinking that we're making it more powerful, more emotional, and actually it's not. Lots of adjectives, instead of strengthening something, actually weaken it. The word very, quite often, if you take out every very that you've got, sometimes we qualify things that are absolute anyway. You can't be very unique. You're either unique or you're not. We say it's very round. No, it's either a circle or it isn't. There are lots of things where we think we're making it more powerful by using a longer word or adding more description, and actually all we do is draw it out and make it longer until we get to the point. I don't say take out all adjectives, but you'll find that a lot of them, and especially adverbs, things like suddenly, hastily, extraordinarily, usually they're not necessary, and they do weaken your story rather than strengthen it. Go through and take them out and then read it through and see if it isn't more powerful. And especially if it's in speech. If somebody is desperate, they're not going to say, I've just had this and this and this happen and I want you to do so and so and so. They'll say, help me. A long, long time ago when I was at school, we were taught if you want your words to be powerful, tend to use the ordinary Anglo-Saxon based words rather than those that come from the Norman French or from the Latin or from the Greek, unless it's the only word that covers the situation. Because when we're in deep trouble, when we're powerfully moved by our emotions, we don't use long explanations. I hurt covers much more powerfully the feeling that you might have, rather than I'm writhing in agony on the floor and screaming and contorted and all the rest of it. You think, oh, for heaven's sake, get over yourself. But I hurt. That means something. I can remember quite some time ago when a young man was asked to say the closing prayer in church. And he said, as we take our departure for our various destinations, I thought, you're not on a railway platform, fella. As we go home. Home is a powerful word. It's just 4 letters, but it means where you belong, where you're loved or maybe hated. But it's the root and heart of where you come from. Home. When emotions are passionate, we don't go off into lyrical explanations of it. We're sometimes even lost for words, but the simple words are the ones that we use. Keep the scene short, sharp, and memorable. Don't repeat yourself over and over. And it's very natural to do that, because you think if I say it 3 times, it's going to be more powerful. No, it isn't, actually. If you say it simply once. Don't describe all sorts of things if they're completely unimportant to the story. We don't need to know all the decor. Maybe one important thing, but that's all. Don't describe everybody's clothes unless they really matter. If it's a fashion parade, well, perhaps they do. If the clothes are in some way indicative of their character or their state of mind, yes, but we don't need to know that he wore chinos or jeans or whatever and a clean white shirt, unless that's somehow important or surprising. It's filling in space and sort of almost claustrophobic to the reader, instead of being alive with what happened. And if people are upset and describing a scene of great distress, very few of us are highly articulate. Most of us are gasping for words and struggling with the emotion that we're feeling.